And I think the other thing, we feed off each other when we were doing EMS calls. We had a gentleman that was hit by a car in the middle of Route 9, and I knew what he was gonna ask and what equipment beforehand,
Sure.
because he took the lead. And I think we were on scene less than 2 or 3 minutes.
Right.
Before we were en route to the trauma center, because of the fact we had that rapport of with each other.
Yeah.
And the other part is that, both of us have a very sick sense of humor about things, so we dealt and fed off each other where, if I felt something was kind of bothering him,
Yeah.
I would, say something totally out of character or stupid for me, and, he'd give me that look
Yeah.
and be,
Yeah.
okay, I'm back down to reality, or Rob would say something, and,
Even before what you touched on with the beginning of the shift and saying like, hey, are you here? I always I appreciated it as the officer, but at one point I was just like, I've heard this like 3 or 4 times and asking people this, and I think everybody's okay. And I came in one day and I was in a foul mood and I was not here, and he asked me, he's like, hey, are you here? And I'm like, hey, I'm right freaking here. What are you talking about? He's like, no, are you here? And I was like,
Got it.
you got me, but and I told him, I was like, no, I'm like, I
Yep.
got this going on, this, that, and the other thing. I'm
Right.
trying to do this. There's like 6,000 irons on a fire here, and
Yeah.
he's like, all right. He's like, what do you need me to do? I'm like, just take care of this stuff. And he's like, no problem. We got
Yep.
it.
Yeah, and that's you can't replicate that. I mean that's
it's like he was working the night of the triple fatal fire, and, I came back on a second alarm, and, pulled up and immediately went up to him on the engine and did a drop down the D side to kind of see what that looked like, saw a line going in the side of the building, looked down to, the B side, heavy fire in the back, and next thing I know, a lieutenant from Arlington came over, we pulled a deuce and a half off the rig, went right through the front door, and we were knocking some fire down. We met the line that come through the side, and the two of us were actually making some headway, and we got pulled out. Again, we don't have the overall
I get it.
picture now
Yeah,
because
right.
we're now inside, and we pulled out and, went to Rob, and I said, Jesus, that room is not going on the second floor. Let's get a ladder up there. And we were kind of told no. And now the fire gets darkened down, and, you don't want to be a Monday night quarterback, but then, we start going in, and we had seen the first victim, on the stairwell when we got inside. The second one, we went to that room where there was no fire and opened up the door. There was no smoke, no nothing. And here the second victim was found where we wanted to ladder the window. And
And initially in the operation, after somehow stretching 3 lines and with the help of Mark Myers and getting the hydrant hooked up and everything else, because I originally took a 24 off the truck and went to pitch it. And right when I pitched it, in the beginning of this fire, the front windows had failed. So I just as it was, and it was very awkward. I'm sure somebody that talks about proper lifting techniques would yell at me, but just as I pitched the ladder and started to throw it, that's when these windows failed, and I just kind of threw the ladder down at the bottom of the windows, thinking, all right, we'll get this up in a second, and it just, unfortunately,
yeah.
you always, it's human nature to second guess.
Of course.
The coulda, woulda, shoulda. I shoulda went left, or I shoulda went right down that hallway. I should have done this, I should have done that, but then it goes back to like what you were saying with the day room, and that cup of coffee in the morning and bouncing things off each other.
Right.
One of the things that Rob kind of did that I really liked, and again, it goes back to feeding off of him, is we would come back from an incident and Rob would go, well, that didn't go as planned. Or he would come back and and then we would critique ourselves.
Yeah.
Because I think we were our worst critic.
Right.
We as a group held ourselves to a higher standard than probably most people around.
Right.
Well, with the exception of one person, because, got him so. But anyway, we would critique ourselves in that aspect where Rob would always say, listen, this is what I wanted to do, and do this and do that and do this, and, how did I do it? Were my orders understood?
job time.
Another box.
Yeah.
It's a whole lot of noise.
Yeah, noise.
Noise.
Any day now.
Hit the send button.
There you go.
So it could be a couple things. It's a Hyde Park assignment for us in the town, so it's either the arbors and the gas odor, or
Hyde Park, Fairview, Pennington Mutual Aid, Stafford, Pennington Mutual Aid, Roseville 6314, NDP is an ALS unit. For a cooking accident, smoke coming from the building, 8-year-old female with facial burns. The Mill Run East Apartment, 64 Mill Road. It's going to be between Mill Road Extension and Stounberg Drive, feeding to Hyde Park.
Which apartment?
Fairview, Pennington.
One with the smoke coming out of it.
ALS. Smoke coming from the building, it's going to be a cooking accident, 8-year-old female facial burns. The Mill Run East Apartments, number 64 Mill Road, apartment 14, is
Okay,
1820.
building 14C. Okay, we got it.
So is that a general for 2 departments plus an additional engine?
High Park on a structure assignment has Fairview and Statsburg coming in on a first.
Gotcha.
And because probably one of our engines is still at the previous call, they backfilled with an engine out of Roosevelt.
Gotcha.
So,
Gotcha.
but again, back to, we would bounce, I think we were on worst critic, and we would bounce things off to each other. A couple of the, larger fires, like when we had the recycling plant, we were on our way back from a mutual aid call, and, we had 3 on the rig, and, we could see it,
Yeah.
and,
in fairness, I didn't see it at first, and the guy riding backwards, Joe, he saw it, and I could hear him making a bunch of noise, and I said, Joe, calm down, it's only a car fire, buddy. And he said, I could see the smoke, and I'm like, I'm sure you can. And then we rounded the corner onto Fulton Street, and I mean, him and I just kind of both looked over at each other. I
said,
I love it.
I yelled back and I said, Joe, get the gate. I got the hydrant, Joe, get the gate.
Yeah.
And I just got on the radio and I'm like, hey, is this really just a car? Because this is the smoke in the sky is not telling me.
About 30 cars.
That's
Yeah,
wild.
it's
Yeah, I remember that. I
Yeah.
remember.
And not only did we do that once,
It did twice.
twice, I mean,
funny.
it's not going anywhere. It's
Right.
just a lot of cars. We
Right.
dumped a lot of foam the first time. And again, with both times that we were there, I happened to be, the first due driver.
Yeah.
And I felt comfortable in that seat because I can control what went on around me.
Sure.
Because again, once Rob gets off the rig and he's in his officer mindset, I'm in the driver mindset. I'm getting him his water, I'm getting him his stuff, and he's doing his 360 of the scene and going through his mind of what he wants his first due, second due, third due, and I can control.
I get it. I mean,
slow things down and say, hey, okay, let's go. Rob wants you guys over there. Rob wants a 5-inch here. He wants a tower ladder here.
yeah. And Craig, I absolutely get it because in my position now, in my department, I tend to be driving the first due engine out of my house quite often now because I'm more of a senior guy in the house, and I tend to get there quick like the younger kids, so we get out quick, and I tend to have the wheel. And I enjoy the position. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'd still love to be on the knob on all the fires and, this and that, but I enjoy the wheel because I think driving is such a huge job. And I think that as the chauffeur or the MPO or whatever you want to call it, it's like, for me, I picture it as like playing in the sandbox. And it's, knowing 3 ways to get there, knowing what my officer expects of me, and he knows what to expect. I know what to expect of him. He knows what to expect from me. Being able to tell him, hey, boss, I'm going to put it here. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. Do you want to pull up the rear? We're going to do this. Like, I think that that's such a senior position that I understand the relationship that you two had when you worked together because you guys were able to develop that craft between you two. And I think that's amazing. And I have that rapport with a lot of my guys. And I think it's just makes things so much easier for the boss. It's one less thing they have to worry about. And I also think it's such an important position and role on the fire ground that is often overlooked.
Hey everybody, it's Robert with National Fire Radio. Thanks for tuning in. Catch up with us on social media. We got
SoundCloud, National Fire Radio, YouTube, National Fire Radio, Instagram, National Fire Radio, and Facebook, National Fire Radio. Guys, check us out. Take care. Be safe.